the TFSA limit resets on January 1st, which means all Canadian investors need a plan for 2026. Today, I'm going to share my plan with you, the 5 stocks that I'm buying in my TFSA in 2026, tell you why I like the stock, what's the story behind it. We're going to start with Brookfield today because this is one of the most interesting stories out there when it comes to stocks in Canada. Brookfield is a massive beneficiary from huge trends going on right now. Probably the most interesting is the infrastructure build out. Now, in infrastructure, we're talking about 2 things at the same time, both of them benefiting Brookfield. We have a huge amount of government infrastructure spending, increase in Canada, increase in the United States, increase in Europe. This is sort of parallel with all the defense spending. It's all just making things better for Brookfield. We could be talking about building out new ports. We could be talking about railway expansion, high-speed rail. We could talk about highways. We could be talking about local level infrastructure. Brookfield benefits from all of this. Their massive presence here in North America means that they benefit massively from Canadian and American expenditures. Their relationship with governments puts them in a really good position to be a private partner on major infrastructure projects. Everything looks good for them from the infrastructure standpoint. It's been a huge tailwind, but that's not even the best part, because there's also now trillions of dollars of private sector investment into energy infrastructure. Specifically, we're talking about the electricity needed for data centers. Brookfield has not only set up a separate fund for this, but has also been at the forefront of a couple key elements here. There's the transmission storyline about how you're going to move the energy. There's the storage storyline. How are you going to keep the energy, store the energy? And then there's the production storyline. And here is just the ace up the sleeve of this company, because they have about a 50% stake in Westinghouse, one of the highest quality nuclear reactor builders out there, one of the most important nuclear companies on the planet right now, who are a massive beneficiary from all the investment in nuclear energy. This means that not only is Brookfield going to benefit from the spending today, but they're going to benefit from the massive long-term tailwind that's coming for the nuclear energy in that renaissance. This means that I'm looking at a company that not only can accelerate their already excellent earnings over the next year or 2 years from all this short-term infrastructure spending, but also one that then is going to have this huge tailwind of Westinghouse and the nuclear revolution coming in the next 5 or 10 years once the build-out really gets rolling. All of this means that they can continue their long streak of outperformance. These guys have a massive long-term trend, and I think really this is a buy and hold forever stock. There's just about nothing out there that has this many assets of this high a quality at this kind of price. Right now, you're not paying too much for the company. Yeah, the PE does look pretty insane, but keep in mind that the structure of the company is incredibly complicated. And if you look at historical price performance, the 20% year they had over 2025 is hardly a massive blow off top rally. Instead, it is simply continuation of long-term trends. I hold this as a long-term hold in my portfolio. I am not looking to just make it big in 26 and sell it. I'm looking to own this for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, beyond, depending on, of course, if things change. So as long as Brookfield can continue to execute at the excellent level they have, I'm going to hold it forever. And with that being said, let's move on to stock number 2. Now, stock number 2 here today could be one of the most interesting and most boring stocks out there at the same time. It's one of the most boring because I'm talking about a Canadian bank, and it's RBC. Talking about the largest Canadian bank. However, being the largest does give them some key advantages. They are an absolute outperformer when it comes to wealth management and capital markets, 2 sectors of the industry that have absolutely blown through expectations in 25. The K-shaped economy we've got going on, where the richest are seeing huge booms and the poorest are seeing serious struggles, does mean that there is some significant opportunity in that capital markets and that wealth management division. They have seen some huge earnings beats. They've seen provisions not hit as hard as they could have. They've seen a huge rally. I mean, we're talking 41% over the last year. It has been a great time to be an RBC shareholder. Now, why it's really interesting is because at the same time as that outperformance and that huge run has been awesome for shareholders, does bring up the question of whether or not it's a good idea to still buy this stock. And what I'm going to say here might surprise you a little bit. I think RBC is an absolute gem of a company whose stock will probably not repeat 25. It will probably not go up any significant amount in 2026. Now, I could look back at this prediction in 12 months and be absolutely dead wrong. But I'm looking to buy the stock this year because I think this year is going to disappoint. I think there's a couple of headwinds they're looking at. Not only has outperformance been massive, and the comps are going to be brutal over the next couple of earnings reports. They're going to have to beat outperformance which is always such a challenge. Analyst expectations are going to be higher. The market's expectations are going to be higher. These guys, I don't know if they're going to keep up, in fairness. But I also do think that there are some serious challenges when it comes to the condo market and the sort of general residential real estate market in places like Toronto and Vancouver. Now, when we talk about Canadian real estate, and that's not something we do a lot here on the channel, it's almost always talking about the Greater Toronto area and the Lower Mainland in Vancouver and around Vancouver. That's not necessarily the whole market. There's a lot going on outside of it, but that is sort of the largest scale markets in Canada. And those markets have both seen significant downturns. The condo crisis, we've talked about it a couple of times, but I'm sure you've heard guys like Ron Butler cover this a number of times. Significant challenges. You've seen a huge drawdown in a lot of those properties. A lot of lenders are backstopped by guys like RBC. So there could be serious challenges in that debt market. We've also seen people bring questions about the private equity market around data centers and AI. So maybe there are challenges there. All of this could mean headwinds, could mean more provisions. It could mean slower growth than expected. It could mean that part of the business struggles. But I also think that there's a potential for the economy to start getting better in 2026. Now, it could come from the Federal Reserve in the United States starting to print money. It's not technically quantitative easing this time, but same concept, right? Maybe a little bit more free money in the system could lead us to another sugar rush rally in 2026. That could be good short term. But again, K-shaped economy, the lowest half of the business is definitely struggling. That could drag down the business. We don't know if wealth management will continue to outperform. So I think there's a lot of really interesting thoughts about whether or not this is going to be a good own short term. The thing is, if you just zoom out and look at how RBC has done throughout history, and if I literally just zoom out on this chart here to the max, you'll see why I'm going to own this stock. Because despite the fact that we could be at a point like we were in 2021, where the stock then retraces all the way down, you would still love to be buying a stock that's currently $171 for $110 or $114. You would still love that opportunity, because if you just hold on long term, you see the kind of outperformance you can get. So I'm going to do exactly that. Yeah, short term might not be the best pick I make today. Long term, I think these guys can continue to outperform. It is a big, diversified business. They have lots of different sort of fingers in pies. You know, they have some interest in these areas, some interest in these areas. They don't depend on one resource, one sector of the market. And so I think it's a really good hold to have in conjunction with the rest I'm going to talk about, which brings us to stock number 3. Now, stock number 3 is a personal favorite of mine, something I've talked about a lot this year because I think the opportunity has absolutely been there. It's Canadian Natural Resources. This is, in my opinion, the best and probably the most held Canadian oil stock. Now, we'll talk about natural gas later, but when it comes to oil specifically, 2025 was a brutal year. Price of oil dropped over $20 a barrel. We saw significant challenges. However, we did see some serious movement in the sort of political zeitgeist around oil, the long-term opportunity with oil. We saw the removal of the emissions cap. We saw a little bit of softening on pipelines. So there's been a little bit of up and down, and that's absolutely reflected in the stock price. On a one-year basis, stock's up about 10%, which is not terrible. But as you can see, there were lots of highs and lots of lows, right? With the stock jumping and dropping and jumping and dropping. I think that at every point this year, the stock has been a buy. I think that for a couple of reasons. I've covered them many, many times on the channel. I think the stock is undervalued compared to what the assets it owns are worth. I think that the cash flow short term shouldn't be as discounted as they are. I think that the long-term opportunity here is far greater than people thought. I think that the shift in people like the IEA and in lots and lots of other major economists around the world in the belief that oil is going to be demanded much longer term at much higher volumes means that the long-term, long-cycle assets C&Q sits on are worth a huge amount. And I think that the $15 billion in expansion they announced this year are a huge vote of confidence from management and shareholders who rewarded them for that move in that long-term story, which means that I think this is a long-term buy, not necessarily like RBC or Brookfield, but for the next 10 years, I think this could be a fantastic outperformer. Lots of energy analysts think we're at the start of a bull run in the price of oil, because as the prices drop lower and lower and lower, we're seeing short cycle supply get absolutely demolished. US shale is the most prevalent example, which means that long term, all of that supply goes away, demand stays consistent, and then demand starts outpacing supply, brings about a new bull cycle. Prices have to raise in order to encourage more drilling. And I think while prices start to raise, a low cost, high value producer like C&Q could see huge cash flows. That could mean either huge dividends or huge share buybacks. Could be more expansion, more assets they buy, all of which I think is going to benefit shareholders in the 5 years following 2026. Now, I should say my strategy of CNQ is a little bit different than it would be with an RBC or a Brookfield. While I'm still definitely dollar cost averaging, I'm also not just going to hold this forever because I like the company. I am following the story a little bit more closely. I am looking for opportunities while I'm still trying to use a dollar cost average strategy. I'm not necessarily lump summing in at any one time. I'm also looking to take advantage of dips because I think the start of the year 26 is going to be bad for the stock, just flat out. I think that the fact that oil prices are predicted to be, at these kind of levels in the 50s or even lower to start the year could mean that the stock starts to drop. And then I think we're going to see the stock price run a little bit. So I'm going to front load my purchases maybe a little. Overall, I think the 26 could be the start of something huge for these guys. And I think if you're willing to zoom out and not stress about, 6-12 months of price action, the opportunity has been here for a year and it's not going to be here forever. So I'm buying CNQ. Might be worth checking out in your watch list. Now, the next stock today is also a personal favorite, something we talk about a lot on the channel, and it's a natural gas stock. Now, Tourmaline is, again, the most held, probably the most prevalent Canadian natural gas player. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the highest quality or lowest price, but I do think it's probably the best all-around pick, which is why I own it in my TFSA. It has a couple key things going for it. One, stock price is actually down over the last year, which is wild if you've been following the story of Canadian natural gas, because unlike oil, natural gas is up huge in 2025. We had LNG Canada come online. We have a gigantic pipeline of new LNG projects coming online over the next little bit, including the new Silicim's project that did get a new pipeline approved. It's one of the few pipelines we've been able to build, our natural gas pipeline. So huge to see that going on. LNG Canada Phase 2 is also planned. We're going to see probably both of these FID'd or final investment decisioned in 2026, meaning that the actual investors who own the projects are going to decide, yep, we're building them, which means that demand could come online as early as 2028 or 9. Maybe 2030 for LNG Canada Phase 2. Depends obviously on how much money they're putting in and what the challenges are there. Either way, there's a huge structural increase in demand, which has definitely increased Canadian or AECO pricing. On top of that, Tourmaline being such a scale player has a lot of exposure to US pricing, to European pricing, all of which is sort of coming into this realm of equilibrium around the $4 through $7 range, which means gigantic profits for Tourmaline. The more stable they can get those prices, the more their investments in long-term growth as a company are going to matter. This is, again, not something I would own for the short term. If you wanted a short-term natural gas player, there's been a lot of smaller, much more profitable plays you could have made this year. But if you're looking to hold something for 5 years or 10 years, you're looking at natural gas as the fuel of not only all this LNG, but also the huge expansion in AI, at least until nuclear comes online, maybe in the 2030s, then the opportunity is here. These guys have scaled up at the same time as, again, US shale is looking at collapsing pricing because they're so dependent on that oil price. These guys are in a much cheaper play. They own a huge amount of the Montney. It's a much younger play. They have a lot longer term resource. Again, a lot of those same advantages as a CNQ. And again, I think the price is right here. I think the fact that the stock is actually down on a year with all these headwinds and tailwinds, and the fact that you can just buy this for cheaper than you could have a year ago, before LNG Canada, before all this momentum, before all of the interest in AI, before the fact Alberta got rid of the clean energy regulations and now can build AI data centers here. I mean, there's literally billions of dollars flooding into new demand. And there's a handful of companies that are creating new supply, which means, again, just like in oil, as you see prices drop in the price of oil, as you see rigs come offline and you see demand grow, you're going to see higher pricing. Natural gas is at least 6-12 months ahead of where the oil price is going to be, which means that these guys are already seeing huge profitability. The Q4 earnings report is going to look insane in contrast with Q3. So there's a million things that look good for this company. And to be honest, the only thing that looks bad for them is the price chart over the last year. I also think, kind of similar to CNQ, that the first couple months of the year are probably going to be the best time to buy this. If this thing runs past 70 in 6 months, for example, I might not be trying to buy it at those prices, because I think $70 is a reasonable price. Probably not within 6 months. I think as you see the thing start to run up a little bit and a little bit more, I think I'll slow down my purchases, or at least use a dollar cost average strategy. So I'm getting more shares for the same price earlier in the year. And that way I don't necessarily expose myself if the thing gets again on that kind of sugar high rush, but I do get the long-term exposure to the long-term energy story that Tourmaline represents. The last stock on the list today is probably the most interesting to me, and it's a new buy in my TFSA. It's Constellation Software. Now, if you don't know the story here, this is the ultimate throwing the baby out with the bathwater story in the tech space in 2025. And you never see really good, high quality, cheap Canadian tech. Usually you either pay a huge premium or you're buying something discounted to its American peers. But here is an amazing company, a huge capital compounder that has long-term outperformance, that has managed to create a super valuable, profitable niche, and is basically immune to AI disruption. And yet, as software started to become more and more feared, as people started worrying about software collapsing, the stock price started to sell off. You saw that start maybe in June, July, and then as you see August run through all the way to now, basically, with the lows being at the start of December and in November, basically everybody's been selling stock out of the fear that AI is coming. But to be honest with you, think about it critically for a second. This company's entire thing is they offer mission critical software that if it fails, either people die or systems break or vehicles can't get on the road or employees can't get paid. The kind of things that are really, really, really important in hospitals and businesses and, governments all over the world. They make those softwares at a high quality and continue to run them, maintain them, improve them over time. Do you think that's the first thing that vibe coding is going to kill, really? Despite the fact that all evidence has suggested that nobody trusts AI to do those mission critical things yet? And do you think that Constellation isn't going to leverage that same AI to make their services far more efficient, far faster, more responsive, and far higher quality? I don't understand. The only realistic thing that I think Constellation suffered from this year is that CEO stepped down. Mark Leonard, this amazing, check out the beard again. I talk about this every time I see him. I just love the image. But amazing CEO of this company stepped down. That's a valid reason to be a little bit concerned. But the fact you're getting a 30% discount on one of the highest quality stocks in the country over AI fear and the CEO stepping down isn't realistic to me. So I've been buying this stock. I started picking up the end of 2025. I'm going to pick it up as long as I can get these prices. I don't know where this thing's going in 26. It could be going lower, to be quite honest with you. But I think it's a really high quality company. I think they have a massive track record of success. And I want to own this thing at least for the next 5 years. Because I think as people start to recognize where AI really will fit in as a tool that people use to become more efficient and not as a replacement for really high quality engineers in the software space, I think we're going to recognize just how wrong we were on Constellation here. I think a lot of people are going to be flooding back in because they don't want to miss out on the next 5 years of massive capital compounding. With all that being said, those are the 5 stocks I'm buying this year in my TFSA. I would love to hear your thoughts. Is it a similar list to you? Are you buying it in a different way? Are you just buying ETFs? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd also like to hear which of these stocks you think is the most interesting opportunity, because I'm always interested to see, where the community feels the sort of interest is right now, where the opportunity is, versus where maybe I'm just on my own thinking something's really cool. So please let me know all that in the comments down below. As always, if you made it this far in this video, please do like the video. It makes a huge difference. It doesn't cost anything. And if you like the content we drop on this channel, please do subscribe. With all that being said, I hope I see you in the next one.